Lotargar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blah here, and it's time for another Orca Mode workout. And yes, there's a little bit of new stuff in the camera. I've been slowly just getting good deals on different things online, so that I've been building my gym up here. And so yeah, I've got things like chains, I've got a proper box. Actually, I've got a second one of those boxes coming, because you guys are going to see that I can do some interesting accessory stuff with a pair of those boxes. You have to be creative with what you've got with a home gym. And today, for my max effort lift. And yes, I'm going to rotate through at least 6 or 7 different max effort lifts for both the squatting and the benching. And I'm going to kind of avoid these for the deadlift. Deadlifts, I'm just going to do singles at 90%, right, on max effort day. And then I'm going to do speed work with bands and chains in 3-week waves. But what people need to understand, what we're doing here to make this work for completely raw lifters, we will select variations that do kind of work my weak points a little bit, and for me it's upper back and things like that on the squat. So we're doing box squats in general for the max effort stuff and the dynamic, but we're keeping a raw specific training in, and that's one of the keys to making a system like this work if you're going to be raw. And if you want to eventually even compete in powerlifting, you need to have some specificity of training. So what we're doing with all your different max effort and wave loading with bands and chains and things is that you are trying to get strong through every awkward angle. You're trying to get as strong as possible and just continually hit PRs over and over and over and over. So like, let's say you rotate through 6 basic squat variations, it's 6 basic bench variations, you literally PR year round on them. So your goal is every time you do that lift is to increase the weight on the bar every time. So every time you do safety bar with chains, or a safety bar with a blue band, or a safety bar against a red band, you want it to be heavier than the time you did it before, even though it might have been 6 or 7 or 8 weeks ago. You continually go up on these. Now what I'm doing is rotating these in the conjugate style. And I'm mostly just going to stick with squats for the squat and deadlift day, because I'm going to always do some singles on the deadlift. And our variation on the deadlift is mostly going to come from the speed days. And then we're going to do accessories, right? Accessory movements are what we'll use to build deadlift up also. So I will continue to do my normal heavy 90+% work on these lifts afterwards. So what we'll do each day, we'll ramp to a max. As you guys can see, this is a slow ramp up. You sometimes need 6 or 7 weight increases to hit your max. And since this is a new lift, I'm going to have to very carefully establish what my max is going to be, right, with the chains. And so you log all this sort of stuff on a spreadsheet. You need to keep track of it if you do this sort of training. So I think I eventually got up to 335 plus 65 pounds of chains. Now, obviously, my chains are not fully unloaded at the bottom, so it's kind of hard to know exactly how much weight I have at the bottom. When I do bands, I will know exactly how much I have at the bottom, because the bands only have a tiny amount of tension, just a couple pounds. If I set them up correctly. With chains, it's a little harder. I'm assuming maybe out of my 65 pound set, only about 20 pounds of it's on the bar at the bottom. So I'm going to assume with this 335 on the bar, because the bar is a 65 pound bar, when I get to the box, and my box is 13 inches. I got a 12-inch box, and I put 1 inch of padding on the top just to space it. Because for me, when I've checked from a side view, that puts my hips 1 inch below parallel. So with these boots on, yes, I'm wearing Tim's. I linked it the other day, by the way. I linked it. People wanted to know which pair I have, and I linked it directly from my Amazon page, because I went to check the exact ones I had on, because someone wanted to know. So what I'm doing after that is I'm going ahead and doing my normal high bar squats. And I ramp up to a little bit to about 90%. So the goal on my max effort days is to maintain my normal raw strength. Number 1, we want to stay fairly heavy at the bottom on accommodating resistance exercises. Number 2, what do you do in a powerlifting meet? You hit 3 singles on all your big lifts. So I generally would tell people, if you want to run a system like this, your normal plain competition lifts, you need to hit 3 singles every week, right? 3 singles. Now, they can be at 90%. Why? 90%, just a hair over or slightly above. So for me, I put 430 on. Now, the first one, I noticed there was a tiny bit of thoracic rounding. It was actually totally acceptable. Well, that's good, because that's what we're working on for weak points. And so if we can work with just a hair over 90%, the form breakdown won't occur. And I can stay right at the sort of form that I want and practice moderately heavy weight and lift it as hard as I can with decent technique. So by hitting the 3 singles that are probably a hair heavier than you would open with at a powerlifting meet, you're getting into the practice of hitting your 3 heavy singles every week on your normal competition lift. But we are using the others as a strength tester. And we can estimate our maxes based upon our strength increases on the other lifts. And so even if I don't feel like testing, because I will periodically test these for true maxes, I'll rotate these into max effort days, my actual competitive lifts every now and then, like I've already done for you guys. And we will rotate these in from time to actually legitimately test them. But we can calculate the weight increases enough to work these percentages to make sure we're hitting at least 90% for 3 singles every week on all 3 lifts, right? But these are looking decent. They're looking decent. And I'm going to work on bringing my footing out a little more on the squat, because I know the way I'm built, I would get better leverages, but I have to build my strength with that wider stance, which the box squats are doing, the sumo deadlifting is doing, and I will eventually bring it out more because I will probably get poundages out of it over time. But I've got to build that strength angle. It's a strength deficiency for me right now. So I will start doing more accessory stuff to address that, in addition to all the upper back stuff. So sumo deadlifts. I'm going to go ahead and just pull sumo for a little while because it builds conventional anyways. You can do a little more volume. Since I'm pulling for speed and doing the box squats, I thought I might as well pull sumo for a little while. Now, people will argue for powerlifting, is sumo cheating? I'm a purist. I would be more than happy if sumo was banned from powerlifting. But since it's not, I'm going to mess with it some, and I'm going to check and see if I end up being stronger sumo. And if I am, it would make sense to compete sumo later, right? It would make sense. Why wouldn't I? If the rules allow it, it's not cheating. As a purist, I would not have a problem with it being banned in powerlifting at all. It wouldn't bother me one bit. But if it's allowed and I can get 10 more pounds out of it, I might as well do it. So I'm going to mess with sumo for a little while. Besides it has good strength carryover to other stuff. It will address some strength deficiencies with my stance. So I'm going to keep working it. And the same thing here. I'm working at 90% of what the last heavy sumo single I pulled was. So this doesn't have to be quite as heavy because, again, the deadlifting is going to be slightly secondary to all the squatting. You don't have to pull deadlifts to maxes to build a max deadlift. That's one of the nice things many coaches have noted about the deadlift. But we do need practice at it. So we're going to come in and pull at 90% of what my last heavy single was and maybe slowly work this up over time, but just try to get 3 moderately heavy singles. So it's only 475. So yeah, people are like, that's easy for you. Yeah, it is, but that's fine. I've done these other lifts first. Then for accessory movements today, I don't have my GHR set up in a good place to film. I really don't want my living room all on camera. Like right now I have my glute ham raise in my living room. I mean, a bunch of people said, we don't know that you really have one. I'll film it later or something just so that people can see I do actually have a GHR. That would be the stupidest thing in the world to lie about when you guys literally see over $6,000 worth of equipment sitting on camera all the time. There's no need to lie about having a $400 or $500 glute ham raise, right? That would just be ludicrous. My red plates alone cost more than GHR does. But, you know, people will always be like, oh, you're lying. So I'll eventually put it on camera. 5 sets of 10 on Pendlay rows. So what we're doing right now, I'm using this as a deadlift builder so that I can specialize in my bench a little more because my bench needs the most work. So my 2 bench press days are devoted purely to bench and bench accessories, right? So I'm putting the rows in as a deadlift accessory. We're doing them on deadlift day. 5x10 is a nice, good amount of training volume to just thicken my back up, thicken my biceps up, get some extra grip training. Because with the nice hook grip twice a week, particularly with that accommodating resistance, I'm getting good hook grip work. This is giving me a little bit of extra grip training to do all these higher volumes of Pendlay rows. And then I'll start messing with my pinch blocks a little bit more to make sure my grip is good. And then after this, people need to remember what I do on camera, this is just my main workouts. Afterwards, I usually try to do, because I do hyperextensions and abs every day. Like that's an everyday thing for me. I do face pulls most days. But a lot of times on these lower body days, I try to do some glute ham raises, but they're hard to do sometimes after the good mornings and the deadlifts and everything. Sometimes my hamstrings don't have anything left. I literally have days where I do 1 and my hamstrings cramp up, and I've had other days where I get 3 sets of 10. So it's really hit or miss as an accessory. It depends on what I have left in the tank. But even with this lightweight, 5 sets of 10 on rows is pretty fatiguing. Like I'm not going to lie, even with only 205, that 50 reps really adds up. Like I'm actually pretty damn fatigued from doing it each time. And so by the time I get over to my safety bar good mornings, it's like, man, they're tough. So I did 5 sets of 10 on this, and then I did 3 sets of 10 on safety squat bar good mornings to again train my thoracic rectors further, some posterior chain, and then I'll probably later do some glute ham raises and then some glute ham raise sit-ups. Just for my abs and everything. So people do need to understand I do extra hamstring work. I do extra ab work. I have some specific stuff I'm going to be doing for additional quad work later that I'm going to add in, which you guys will see some creative ways to do it. I'll do a lot of it on camera for you guys. It'll become a normal accessory movement in my rotation. But at this point, again, I need my training to be on point. I need to be as big as possible in terms of muscle mass at this body weight. So we're going to sit here and recomp, lose body fat, gain muscle at this size, and then reassess body weight and cutting once I reach a certain threshold in body composition. But for now, I'm gaining strength back at this body weight, so staying under 220. So my body is happy here for now, so I might as well use it to make as much gains as I can and then reassess body weight and body fat coming up once I've established as much size and strength as I can get at this size. So we'll see where we can go with it. But obviously I'm going to get leaner over time. My current body fat isn't ideal even for a strength athlete if I want to be ultra competitive. So again, I've got to get stronger. I've got to get leaner, and getting stronger also is going to entail shoring up all my weak links from a hypertrophy perspective. Everything that's a possible weak link needs to be thickened up. We need it to get bigger because size does equal strength. Yes, neuromuscular efficiency matters, power matters, but you can't have weak links in terms of thickness in your kinetic chain. So all these little muscles, thoracic erectors, hamstrings, lower back, triceps, all this stuff has to come up, even my delts to some extent. So you guys will see a lot of that addressed in the coming months. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.